So I'm Kelly, I live in Southport. I've got a son who's 14. I work in Liverpool for the Salvation Army at Strawberry Field. And outside of work, I'm quite active. I enjoy things like running and tandem cycling. Lockdown, like it probably did everyone, affected me a lot. I think I went, back in March, I went from having a really full-on life. I was traveling independently into Liverpool every day, a good hour journey to go to work. I was doing loads of activities with my son. I was training to run in the London Marathon that was going to take place in April. So, life was really, really full and busy. And then the lockdown hit, and then obviously everything changed. I went from going into work to working from home. So, not really going out the house as much. All the activities I was doing kind of stopped because I felt too, like I didn't want to go out running anymore. I felt too scared. I was worried about, even though I'm running with a guide, I was still worried about people being on the pavements. I wasn't sure how bad things were, how, if it was okay to even sort of go past them on the pavement. So that kind of scared me a lot. And I went from going into shops on my own to just not going out, I went out, but only with another person. So I kind of felt at first like I'd really lost my independence, and I felt worried really. I felt, quite overwhelmed about thinking, what if this is it now and I can never get back out on my own again. So it was quite a scary thing really. And even though I've got my cane in my hand, I still felt that when I'm out and about, I was worried that people would get too close or that I'd end up having to go in the road to avoid people. I was kind of turning it over in my mind all the time, thinking, is this it now? Is this it for me? Am I never going to get back to the way I was? Because none of us knew at the time, how life was going to be going forward. How long is the pandemic going to last? Does that mean this is it forever? So for me, it felt like a really scary thought, and I did feel at the time like, disability, visual impairment. I just felt like it had all been left behind. I kept feeling like disability had gone back about 100 years, like no one really was bothered anymore about what was happening to people, people like myself. And I felt really fortunate that I had, a partner and a son in my house. But if I'd have lived alone, I wouldn't have got out, and I know that. I know I wouldn't have got out at all. And that to me is a really scary thought, to think that people were going through that at that time. But equally, no one seemed to be bothered about it. No one checked up. I just felt like there was kind of a lack of care over it. In terms of local authority, I've had absolutely no contact from anyone, or even from any kind of health-related organisations at all. And that's frightening, isn't it, to think that, luckily for me, I've got the confidence in people around me. But if I hadn't have had that and I was completely on my own with no confidence, I really don't know what would have happened. But I heard absolutely nothing from no one. I felt like I'd lost my independence in the sense that I'm just so used to getting up, going to work, getting out on my own, all those things, and suddenly just all of it had gone. So, I was more reliant on Mike, my partner, to, if I wanted to go out, if I wanted anything from the shops, I'd get my mum or Mike to go, so the feeling of just not even being able to do something as basic as going in a shop anymore, it just felt, it felt awful. Like it felt, those are the very basic things, aren't they, that that we do each day. I mean, they're not always easy even without a pandemic, but I still want to do them on my own. I still know that I'm, quite capable of going to the shops on my own, or going to meet my friends alone. That didn't feel great. I mean, I know that's the same for everyone, but yeah, I just really kind of felt it. And I think when you can't see, your world's a lot smaller anyway. You've kind of got what's around you, and that's it. So I think I felt at first, I felt really claustrophobic. I felt like my world had shrunk a lot more. And for the first couple of weeks, it really did feel like it was coming in on me. To the point where it makes you feel a bit panicked. But then I think as time went by, I just got used to it and realised maybe, as kind of things started easing up a little bit, that maybe it wasn't going to be quite as bad as I thought. But those first few weeks were horrible. Initially, I was really worried about social distancing, to the point where I didn't go out on my own, because when you are visually impaired, how do you know a 2 metre distance? It's difficult. Like, I know my cane, for instance, is 1.2 metres, so that helps. So I know that it's got to be further than that. But, I don't feel like when you can't see, you just haven't got the same concept of that distance. So I was really worried about it, and I was scared to go outside alone, because crossing people on the pavements and things like that was quite worrying. But as time went on, I did eventually go out on my own, and it was okay. I mean, I've had a couple of incidents where I've been a bit a bit worried, but I've kind of slowly started rebuilding my confidence back up. But I do think the social distancing thing is very hard. And I know people say when you're outdoors, it's not as bad because, the virus is less likely to spread outside. But it's still, it's still worrying. Everyone else can keep that social distance. So, I feel like anyone who can't see should also be able to keep it. I've only been in a couple of shops on my own so far. And I've only gone in shops that I know the layout of, and I've literally gone straight to the till area and just asked for what I need. And when I've done that, they have been helpful. They've gone and got what I needed for me. So it's been okay like that. But I do think the shop thing is really worrying. Like, I wouldn't yet go in a supermarket on my own, for instance, because they've got one-way systems, markings on the floor. And prior to the lockdown anyway, I wouldn't have, for instance, gone and done a food shop completely on my own. I'd have probably gone with my mum or with Mike. I'd have got someone to give me a hand. But if I just needed to pick up a few bits, I would have gone in and said, "Oh, can you just help me find these?" But I don't feel like I would do that just yet. I don't feel quite at that stage where I'd feel comfortable to do that. In the past few weeks, I'd say my anxiety has lessened a bit. I have started going out for walks on my own. Me and Mike have started running again, which has been great. I mean, I hadn't even been in a shop since March, and up until a week ago, I decided I'm going to have to just start going into shops, not on my own, but with someone. I just felt really worried about it. So now, with a face covering on and my cane out, I feel safe to go into a shop with someone else. And I've tried it a little bit on my own, and that's been okay too. But I think, I'm still, I still feel really far away from what life was. Like, I know I've got to go back to work in a couple of weeks, and the thought of getting on a train, for instance, I can't. At the minute, I can't even imagine doing that. It just fills me with dread because, I don't know whether I could book assistance. And, obviously you're not social distance even if you do get assistance. If I did try and get on the train on my own, how do I know which seats you can and can't sit on? Because I've heard that some of them have got like labels across to tell you that you can't get, to keep people socially distant so you don't go on those seats. And then the other end of my journey, I would get off the train and then get into a taxi. And that all really worries me because, normally I'd get assistance, get someone to help me find the taxi. Can I do that now? I just literally cannot imagine doing any of that. And I don't feel like I'll be travelling around like I was for a good while yet. I can't imagine doing it. And I've thought about it loads of times, and we've talked about it a lot, and about how, just getting back on a train, because my journey's an hour. Maybe I'd have to break that down into little bits and just try going a couple of stops and just seeing how it feels. But it's still the whole getting on and getting off. And at peak times, travelling into a city, are people going to be, people push on and push off trains, is that all going to happen, and will I feel safe? I do feel like my life's kind of been flipped upside down, and I have gone from being massively, and I mean massively, independent to, I'm getting there, but I'm definitely nowhere near to the point that I was. And it isn't a great feeling because I keep thinking, if I could just jump in a car and it'd be fine. I wouldn't have to worry about all the contact of using public transport, and that's what really bothers me. To get back to where I was, a lot of it I know is going to be down to my own confidence, having to kind of increase that. But I think also it's going to be kind of the world around me. Realising and embracing that people who are visually impaired do have struggles with certain things. So I feel like, shops, train stations, all these places need to start getting it that, if you can't see, there's markings in place for people who can see, but there's nothing tactile for people who can't. There's signs up everywhere. I can't. None of all of this is accessible to me and anyone else who's visually impaired. I think until the world starts to embrace that, it's going to be really difficult to get back to exactly the point that I was at, if this is how the world is going to be from now on. I always think in life that I have to find my own way. With everything, it's like, I don't know, reading something at work, I have to use a screen reader or I use Braille. You have to find your own way around things when you can't see. And so I feel like I've started doing that a little bit now. So like I've made the decision, if I'm going to go into a shop, I'll only go in shops that I know the layout of currently. And if that's changed, then I'll learn that as I go. But I feel like I'll go into a shop and I'll do it my way. I'll have to just go straight to the till or the area that I know and ask for the help there, and that's the only way that I can do it. I can't do it any other way. And if I go in I know like some shops have got in and out entrances. I don't know which is which, but I'll just have to go in where I think and hope for the best until someone tells me different. There's nothing I can do. One of the things that would really help, I've noticed, when I've been going out to shops, there isn't any consistency. So you can go to one shop and they might have one kind of one-way system, and you go somewhere else and there's another one. And obviously I can't see, so I don't know which is the way in and the way out. So if it was the same everywhere, then at least I could be able to like memorise that, and it'd be a lot easier. So I think I was going into Next the other week with my mum. You go in, there was like, you go in one way and you come out another way. But then I could go somewhere else and I know it's not going to be the same, so it's just not something that you can learn. And obviously, like, you go into a shop and one of the first things someone on the door asks you to do is to go to the hand sanitising point. So it's just for, it'd be great for people to be a bit more aware that if you've got a cane and I've got a cane, to just kind of show me where that is rather than just saying it's over there, which isn't really very useful. It would definitely give me more confidence to think that I knew that each shop would be like X, Y or Z, and I knew that in advance. It would be really helpful. But at the moment, it's just completely going into the unknown, and that is quite scary. If I could sit down with someone from like a retail park or an official kind of person, I think I'd probably ask them to shut their eyes and imagine what it was like if you had to suddenly go round in a world that was totally different to what it was before, knowing you've got to keep social distance, knowing nothing's the same as it was. Like, how would they cope? How would they manage? Because I always think that until people can really think about it and experience it, and it's the only way they're ever going to understand it. It's easy to go, we've done this or we've done that, but I feel like people need to feel it. They really need to get it, what it's like when you can't see where stuff is, and I'd want them to sort of embrace people who are visually impaired, and try and make changes, make it better, have some consistency, have the staff trained up so that they know if they see someone coming in with a cane or a dog, or even if they've got neither of those but have got a visual impairment, to kind of understand that, you need to offer a little bit of help. Maybe that person just needs some extra help in the shop, a little bit of guidance, even if it's verbal guidance, because I know we don't want people to get too close to each other these days. But I just think it'd be great if people could become more consistent, but more understanding. I would love people to just start really getting it. And if they can't get it now, in a time where the world has been turned upside down, then I don't know when they will.
Our videos are helping people across the world. If you found them useful, please donate on our website so we can keep making more videos like this in the future.
Henshaws, supporting people with sight loss and a range of other disabilities to go beyond expectations.